Arizona basketball keeps the good times rolling, 4-0 in conference play. There were some questions, there were some good positives. Let's get into all of that and more.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for listening to the Locked On Wildcats podcast. This show is brought to you today by FanDuel. You can put down $5 on these NFL playoffs and you can get back $200 in free plays. New customer, check it out. NFL playoffs, obviously, here. This is a great time. All right, now, Arizona beats and takes care of business against UCF. Now, there are some things about this game that I think were a little bit frustrating for quite a few people, including myself. We will get into that, but first, let's talk about the good aspects here. The good thing is, first, Arizona again got the win. That is huge, and you're 4-0 in conference play, and you had to get some of these wins back. Now you got to get a little bit greedy. You got Baylor coming in. We're going to talk about that one in a little bit, but you got to stay greedy here. You got to be able to keep this one going, and if you can keep this one going, then I think that you're in pretty good shape. Now, ADO, he has been a very pleasant revelation here of late. We have liked what we have seen from ADO. He is getting into the paint. He is shooting 3-point shots. He's doing a lot of things out there that have been very, very good. And I think the thing about him that you also very much like is that he is a little bit more of an initiator than I think people are accustomed to thinking about him. That is a good part about all of this. So, now, let's talk a little bit then about Henri Veesaar. At this point in the game, Henry's a stud. We all know that Henry's a stud. Henry is really, really good. Henry is, I don't know what else to say other than Henry is really, really good. He dunks. He does a lot of the little things. He's been very, very good. When I watch him, I think that to myself, I go, that's a player that is probably going to play in the NBA at some point. Blocking shots, getting dunks, getting rebounds, you name it, he's doing it. Don't know what else to say. He's just been great. And not only has he been great, he's been somebody that I think Arizona can really kind of hang their hat on and say that we can really count on this guy. And that's been a revelation because I don't think that a lot of people thought that before the season. I certainly didn't. So there is obviously that aspect to this. Now, the other thing that we definitely need to talk about here as well is Tommy Lloyd. Tommy Lloyd getting mad at his players and showing accountability. That is a very nice aspect to everything that we are seeing. I think in the past with Tommy Lloyd, you always kind of wondered, what exactly is he really going to hold these guys accountable? Is he really going to do all of that? And sometimes he just really didn't. Like Boswell is a perfect example. Boswell was allowed to do basically whatever he wanted, and he could do whatever he wanted, and nobody really cared. That was a very frustrating aspect to all of that. But overall, though, Tommy Lloyd getting mad, showing Caleb Love that, hey, man, this isn't acceptable the way that you're playing. I need you to play like an All-American, and if you don't play like an All-American, then you're going to have to come sit with me. That's simple. Now, I think the one thing you also have to look at too is where this Arizona team, where is the next what is the next step? And that's getting consistency. The dumb turnovers and the defensive rebounding just has to be better. There's just no way around it. It just has to be better. There is you watch this team and there's just too many lapses. There's just too many things where you're like, why are you doing this? Why aren't you playing better? Because you should. These are guys that have a lot of talent on this team, and the fact that you're doing these dumb things just doesn't make a ton of sense. I don't know why we are still at this point, but again, it's probably not the sharpest team that Tommy Lloyd has ever coached. I do think that there are some good things about this squad, but overall, there are definitely still some issues that you need to be able to kind of look at and say, all right, this just really isn't good enough. And I think that's kind of where Lloyd is at. But either way, things are turning around, and that's something that is exciting because, again, this team, was not looking like an NCAA tournament team just, 3 weeks ago. Now, this team is starting to look like a team that could really cause some damage in the Big 12, and I think that's the part that is exciting about this for so many people, including myself, is that this team is starting to look like a real problem in the grand scheme of things. So we will see how that plays out. Now, we're going to talk about the importance of 4-0 and all of what that means here. But first, game time, my friends. Game time. Here's the deal with Game Time. You can check out Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Again, the great thing about this, too, is that I know a lot of people that have used Game Time not just for sporting events, but for football games, for basketball games, and rock concerts. Our good pal William Brad Alice did just that. You can do that as well with Game Time. So again, download the Game Time app and use code LOCKEDONCollege. And again, you're going to thank me later. You can get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now the next thing that we need to talk about, Arizona now is 4-0 in conference. That is a big thing here. That is a massive aspect to all of this, is that the Wildcats are 4-0. And listen, before the season, you look at it, and there's a lot of teams, again, Houston 4-0, Kansas 3-1. I get it. Iowa State just won as well. So you got to keep pace with those. I get all of that. But it's still a good feeling to just know that this team is taking care of business, and taking care of business in a way, too, that I just think that a lot of people were like a little bit worried about, because it just felt, especially after that, some of those, the games in Maui, that this team just didn't really have there just really wasn't a real feel for this team. There wasn't a real pulse for this team. And I think that's the part that was so frustrating for so many people, is that it felt like this should be a better team than it is shown. And it just wasn't good. There was no way around it. Henri Veesaar changed a lot of that. Not only did Henri Veesaar change a lot of that, I think Henri Veesaar became the dude where you're like, okay, this guy has been a total game changer for basically everything that Arizona is doing. And I think that's the exciting part about all of this, is that Henri can block shots, Henri can rebound, Henri can just do a lot of different things out there. And I think the one thing about it too is that Arizona also is at the stage where you're like, okay, what's that next step then? Because I think with Tobe Awaka is the dude who is Tobe Awaka is the guy that you're like, all right, he tries hard. I give him a lot of credit. Trey Townsend doesn't really try hard. That's going to be that's just going to be a problem, I think, for Arizona, is that Townsend just kind of is what he is. I can deal with Awaka. I think Trey Townsend is kind of I think their impacts are very, very similar, to be honest with you, but I can at least deal with Awaka because he plays hard. Townsend doesn't really play hard, and that's going to be a problem, I think, against really talented teams. Baylor is another example. Baylor is big up front, and I don't love how either one of those guys match up against Baylor. That to me is going to be a little bit of an issue for Arizona, because I just don't think that they match up well. It's going to have to be a Henri game, and I know he won't play him, but an Emmanuel Steffen game as well. Maybe get him in there a little bit, because again, he's a little bit more physical. He's a little bit more active, which is a nice thing. But it's going to be a difficult one. I don't think there's any way around that. It's going to be a difficult one because Baylor's just got a lot of talent. Baylor's got a lot of talent. VJ Edgecombe is a player that is now starting to look, I think, the way that a lot of people thought he was going to look. And that is as somebody who is a All-American type player, who's also a top 5, top 10 pick. He looked really good against ASU. That's going to be a big game for Arizona. That's, KJ Lewis is going to have to step up there. A lot of different guys are going to have to step up there and really kind of flex their muscle. You flex your muscle, then That's just kind of the way it is. Now, with then looking at mentioned KJ Lewis as well. KJ Lewis is going to be really, really big going forward. And with KJ Lewis, he's the player that kind of feels like he fits into that Big 12 type narrative in that he's athletic, he's fairly strong. And he's kind of coming into his own. He's playing better ball of late. He's not trying to do things that he can't. And I think that's been another reason. These guys are starting to hit their stride. And when I say they're starting to hit their stride, that's obviously a good thing. Now, one player that was called out by Tommy Lloyd that we absolutely need to talk about here in just a second was Caleb Love, because there are definitely some, coach had some strong words for Caleb. But first, FanDuel, check it out. Here's the deal. The NFL playoffs, the NFL playoffs obviously are here. You can visit FanDuel, and here's the great thing about FanDuel. You can put down $5 and you can get $200 in free plays. That simple, that easy. Again, NFL playoffs are here. If you're a new customer, you put that down and you win, you're going to get like I said, $200 in free plays by just putting $5 down. It is awesome. You want to check out FanDuel. You want to be part of FanDuel. Who does not want to be part of FanDuel? And again, looking at everything that you got going on, this is the best time of the year to get in on that. You've also got the NBA playoffs. You got college basketball. You got college football still has a game remaining. This is the time to get in on there. So again, put down $5. You can get $200 in free plays if you're a new customer and that bet hits. Go ahead and check it out at FanDuel.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about Caleb Love. Caleb Love was called out by Tommy Lloyd in the post-game presser, and he should have been called out by Tommy Lloyd. Listen, Caleb did a lot of good things in that game, but Caleb down the stretch also did some dumb things. You can't be dribbling into the corner. You can't be turning the ball over like he does. You can't be careless, like Tommy Lloyd said. Caleb Love needs to play like an All-American. I give him a lot of freedom. He needs to play like an All-American, and Tommy Lloyd is absolutely right on that one. Listen, I like Caleb Love a lot. I think Caleb Love can do a lot of really good things. But at the end of the day, though, you've also got to be better. You've also got to be somebody that Arizona can rely on. There's going to be games when he doesn't shoot well. I think we all know that. We've all seen it. We've all lived the Caleb Love experience. But you can't do things that are going to hurt the team as well, and those are like with the turnovers. You can't have stuff like that. If you have stuff like that, that's just unacceptable. That can't be the case. And Lloyd calling him out was a good thing. I love Lloyd calling him out right there because, again, with Lloyd, I think there's some times where you're kind of like, all right, this guy's not really a taskmaster. But he benched Caleb in the previous game, and in this game, he said, I need him to play better. Hopefully that kind of lights a fire. And to be clear, Caleb Love's a good dude. Caleb Love is somebody that the team likes. He's cool to be around. But you've got to be able to get him into a frame where he's his mind is totally in the game. Now, again, you shouldn't probably have to do this with somebody who's in his fifth year in college, but it is what it is at this point. He's still capable of a lot of good things, but he also just needs to, I think, just kind of be told to kind of tamper it down a little bit there, and I think he'll be in better shape. But overall, still got to look at this and say Arizona's 4-0 on the season. One thing I don't like Lloyd doing is I don't like just kind of getting cute and just putting players in that shouldn't be in there, like Conrad. That was a bad idea. That shouldn't ever happen again. But overall, this is a team that's 4-0, and you're knocking on the door of being ranked again. You got a big week ahead of you, though. You got to keep pushing these wins. You got to keep pushing. You got to get the win against Baylor. Then you got to get the win against Texas Tech. At the very least, you need to get a split. And because here's the thing: if you go 6-0 after those ones, and all of a sudden you start looking at it and you're like, okay, Arizona's got a very real chance of winning this conference, but you got to get these ones now because the back end of the schedule is going to be very, very difficult, and you're going to be playing some really, really good teams. So either way, though, Arizona's 4-0. You got Baylor up on the docket next. We're going to talk about Arizona football coaching moves and all of that fun stuff tomorrow. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. We will be back with you tomorrow. Big win for the Cats, 4-0. Talk to you soon.